Yo guys, what is up? It's Teach here coming at you again with another video, and we are in the snow biome as you can see right here, and this is on Lost Island. This is going to be a little bit of a biome review so you can kind of see everything awesome about this section, what is useful, the resources that are here, the dinos that you can find, and some useful spots that you should know about. Now, if you haven't considered smashing that like button, that would be awesome. Consider subbing to the channel because I've got a lot of awesome art content. Hopefully you're enjoying it and it would help a ton. And if you want to leave a comment below, that would be great as well. But let's go ahead and get into the video now. So anyways, you can find this entire section on your map pretty easily. I'll go ahead and show you. Obviously my nice furry gloves go through the top of that. It pretty much fills up the entire upper mid portion of the map. There are some cool little landmarks. It's a very large section, and basically it takes up a majority of the map. So learning how to go over it or go around it is going to be highly useful. Now, I am in the center of it at this exact moment in time. There are a few cold spots. Normally, regular fur or a little bit better than primitive fur will get you through this entire section just by being a little bit cold, and you'll be just fine. So this entire section has a bunch of your normal tames. You're going to have woolly mammoths, you're going to have woolly rhinos. In special events, you're going to get a lot of special colored woolly rhinos and woolly mammoths. You're going to find an overly large abundance of access to rexes, Tyrannus here in this section. Argentavis, dire wolves will be here, saber-tooth, and those are the major spawns here. Now there is also an ice wyvern canyon, however that is on the other side than we're currently at. So I'll go ahead and show you some of the chords that you're gonna want to learn. So this little section right here, I really like this one. It's quick access to a small cave. Now this small cave is nice and hideable. You can find a large amount of coal in the water. You can see them right here. And they're pretty easy to access. You see that, 42.6, 41.4. And this is kind of like the starter point of this little river. Now, this little river leads you to the end of the zone, going over to the Redwoods biome, which will give you access to a lot more tames, as well as some easier access to not freezing to death. But this is the end over here. So what other important things should you know about in this zone? It's pretty simple. Now, there's two major spots that you're going to want to know for resources. One is your Polymer location that everyone should know, and that is at the lake over here. You can see this lake right here. There is a ridiculous number of Kairuku or Kairuku, whatever you want to call them, at the lakes that are in this zone right here. Now, this one has a smaller amount right here, this lake right here. There are Kairuku or whatever you want to call them inside of that lake, but the larger lake that is a little bit further down has a much higher amount of Kairuku, or again, whatever you want to call them. This entire section is kind of filled with all frozen stuff, so the more stuff that you can find that is helpful, obviously the better off you are. So you can see this is the lake right here. There's a ton of Kairuku down here. You can see right over here on this section. They seem to kind of walk on the shores of all of these things. You can see all those babies right there. Yeah, there's a ton of them. And this little area will lead you this lower lake. This is the one I'm talking about. Here's the chords just so you can see them, 32.2, 52.0. And inside of this is a nice little cave with a lot of resources in here and a lot of safety, which is really nice because there's a couple of back end areas where you only have a couple of access points. So especially for PvP, this is going to be a pretty powerful spot because you can kind of build up and base up in here without many issues, as well as having some like hard to get to pathways, which is always useful when you're playing a PvP style map. Now, this is also a great area. You're immune to the environment, so you technically get a house section if you were just to build a floor and a few more things in there as well, so that's pretty useful as well. Now, what else does this area have other than, you know, freezing cold? You got tons of trees, tons of wood. There is a lot of metal on top of these mountains. It's hard to distinguish what's metal and what's not metal because the rocks are so funky shape and colored, with covered in snow. So it's hard to figure that out. But if you find the ones, like the sides of them will still be metal-ish or that kind of metallic, I almost say it like orange-yellow kind of color. And that is a good area to figure that out. You're also going to find some key tames here. Now, I didn't mention these earlier because these are from the other maps. You can see the Managarmer down there. There are also snow owls that hit the northern side of this area. So the northern side is the one I'm looking at right now, and the center of this area, there will be tons of modded creatures. So the actual Managarmer as well as snow owls will be all over the place. You can usually find them pretty much everywhere around here, but a good zone to find Managarmers is 31.8, 49.5. You can see a couple down beneath me. They seem to spawn here and kind of get stuck. Now, also, you'll find a Margosaurus here, another one of those modded creatures, and they will show up in this section in the snow biome, which can be quite useful. So what else is here? So there's a lot here we've already talked about. Now there's also an ice wyvern canyon. It is not towards the lava side. You're going to have to go to the opposite side of the lava if you want to get to the actual ice wyvern canyon. But the snow zone does end with the regular wyvern scar. I wouldn't call that a part of the snow biome, but it is certainly an area that you can go to. The snow biome does, however, host the ice wyvern canyon. Now that canyon can be found by going to that bigger lake that we started earlier in this area with, and you can go to 3394010, and it'll lead you down a river into the ice wyvern canyon. Now there tends to be a ton of Managarmr. They end up stuck down here, and Margosaurus. Pretty much everything that's dangerous is in the bottom of this, so you want to avoid hitting the bottom at all costs. Tons of ice wyvern eggs, so that's pretty cool. Now if you go to the back side of this, you're going to find a ice wyvern cave. Now this cave could be great for PvP if you can find a way to prevent the ice wyverns from spawning. There's even a few really awesome locations that you can go. Like there's a ton of room on these little areas back in here, and you could build a very nice base, just a small little thing, up in one of these little things, which would be pretty useful, obviously, to have access to something like that. But this cave in general is pretty awesome. It's got a ton of resources down at the bottom. You can see the shiny stuff down here. These will give you access to some oil, which is pretty awesome. And all these like funky shaped rocks down here. Some of these are metal rocks, some are oil rocks. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. There's obviously a ton of crystal down there. Pretty much everything is down on this floor. Dangerous though, because you have that ice wyvern down there, and those things are a pain in the butt. But ice wyverns to tame are very, very useful. So that is a very nice thing to know about of this zone. Now there's one more major interest point you're going to want to know about, and that point is the westernmost, not the northernmost, the westernmost portion of this. This is the east side. If you kind of go to the southern and then go all the way to the west, you'll find a very large castle. Now this castle could be really cool to build on. There's tons of stuff nearby it, which is pretty cool. You just follow this entire way and you'll end up at the castle itself. It's like on a big high point over here. It'll load in here in a second. Right here. It takes a second to load in when you're going at high speeds. But directly beneath us is a beaver spawn, which is pretty cool. You can see there's that castle that I was talking about. It's a pretty neat little location to be able to build near. So building on top or nearby this could be very useful for you, beneficial, because there's lots of little caverns in this thing that I didn't actually know about until I started venturing around this thing. You can see these towers are actually pretty defendable, which is kind of interesting because you can't get through the walls, and these kind of like spiral up, so throwing things out in here is going to be very difficult, which is kind of cool. You've got a lower section to this with all kinds of little, I think they're technically called banisters or ballista or whatever you want to call it, ballista towers. And these are pretty cool because there's only one way into them. You could build a neat little thing up here, even a defensive tower up here, and it'd be very difficult to take that out. You can kind of see there's the entire structure right there, and it kind of goes over the top of all of this really neat stuff, almost like a glacier or something hit nearby. But you have access to a nice little cave underneath here, and this is a massive cave right beneath the snow biome, and it's a very nice cave. Lots of room, a freaking ridiculous amount of room, actually. One way in, one way out, and a ton of room. So you can easily build a really awesome defensive structure here and kind of hold that pretty easily from like the inside of that cave. So again, the entire area is pretty awesome. There's a lot of stuff here. Obviously, you've got blue ob in the snow, like it's always in the snow on all maps, but it's a pretty cool zone. Lots of useful things and lots of resources, tames, everything you could need. So hopefully this video helps you out with Lost Island. And other than that, teach out.